So if you're not making money on wholesale, where do you look to find out where it's going? Stick around, we'll show you. Hi everybody, welcome to the DCSI Parts Guys. We're presented by Dealership CSI. We're powered by ESPM. And today we're going to continue our conversation about the wholesale business and what do you do if you're not making any money. A couple of options that we'll talk about, and we'll show you a great report to help pinpoint the problem children. I'm Rick. Here's Jerry. Good morning, Jerry. What's going on in Pewaukee this morning?
Morning, Rick. Just another great day in Pewaukee. Fall's here. Leaves are changing. Days are getting shorter. Winter's coming. But it's a good time of year, and I really enjoy it. So we're going to talk about some wholesale issues and continue on with our discussion from the last session. We've got some real good reports to show you, and looking forward to that.
Well, I appreciate you joining us, Jer, and appreciate everybody out there joining us. As we talked in our last session, we showed you how to put together a wholesale pro forma that shows exactly the net profit contribution of your wholesale business to your parts department. And in some cases, it's a nice contributor. In some cases, it's ugly and red. So taking that into consideration, if we're coming up on the wrong side of the stick here, how can we figure out where to look and how to remedy that? Short of getting out of the wholesale business altogether. So if you remember our last conversation, we looked at the wholesale pro forma, and we had a particular dealer here that was bleeding all over the page, and we discovered that they need to have minimum 18.8% just to break even as far as gross profit percentage on any one of their customers. And in order to do that, of course, cost plus 23 is your lowest if you're going to figure a cost plus basis. So what we've put together here, and again, we've talked about our guy Jack. Jack's a genius when it comes to this kind of stuff, and a while back we went to Jack and said, look, we're trying to figure out how we can present the wholesale business to our customers, pulling some of the data out of the system that's there and reordering it in such a way that we can make some sense of it, and we can really start to look at customers on the basis of profitability and on the basis of returns and return percentage. And so Jack comes up with this report, what we call our wholesale customer report. And Jerry, why don't you walk us through this a little bit, see what's on here and what we can do with it.
Well, Rick, the wholesale customer report that we have, I think, is one of the best reports that we provide to our clients. And what we have here is we have a macro-driven spreadsheet, and we can sort this numerous different ways. But you see on the left there, we got customer number, and obviously we've changed the name of these customers that would fill in with whatever customer names you're using. But we want to look at their 12-month sales, and this is a total sales of over a 12-month period. It's a rolling 12-month that we use the data from. And then right next to that, we show the gross profit that's generated from those customers along with their gross profit percentage. So if you got a break-even point, it helps to know what kind of a gross profit percentage each customer is contributing to that bottom line for you. Next to that, we see the 12-month credits, and we also see the return percentage. One of the things that you got to keep in mind is obviously with wholesale customers, especially body shop type customers, they do tend to return some parts, okay? And what's acceptable to you? We can set different levels there, but generally I take a look at it, and if they're returning more than the allowance that I'm receiving from the manufacturer when I purchase parts, then I got a problem because they're using up my return allowance. So you need to monitor both the returns and your gross profit percentage. And then, like I said, if you're bleeding red ink on that one example we had on the pro forma, well, maybe it's just because of a few customers. And if you don't know what's driving that overall gross profit percentage, you need to take a look at it. And this is a great way to take a look at that for you.
So, Jer, in our example with the pro forma, again, we need 18.8% margin. So I start looking down this sheet here, and I've got a lot of customers here that are dropping below that magic number, which is only my break even. It's not profit. It's just break even, pay the bills, and move on down the road. So the first thing I would look at on this report is let's look at some of these low margin customers. And right here's the first example. I've got 39,556, 15.3% gross. I'm losing 3% under my break even to do business with this person, and they're sending back 5%. Now, like you said, Jared, the 5% is not a problem because I'm earning 6% in this particular example. But if I'm only earning 3 or 2, then I got some trouble on my hands. So that's a consideration to take a look at. And what we recommend you do is target the top 4 or 5 offenders. And if you're going after gross, go after the low gross guys first. And what we have to do is determine the value of that business, and are they really the kind of business that we want to continue to do sales with? Is it a very costly business? Is it stuff that we have to deliver? And then you go back to the returns, and all of a sudden we start to see some ugliness over there. So there's a lot of complication to this wholesale business, and that's what we're trying to bring to you here. And like Jerry said, this report, I'm in agreement. This is one of the best reports that we offer because it just gives you a look at that piece of business that you've never been able to see before. So, Jer, how are we going to go about getting this information and getting it into Jack's report?
Well, Rick, it's pretty much like you said, it's information that's right in your DMS. So on the CDK, for example, we see that this information is coming out of PDA. So if you go into your PDA and you go into the monthly reports, you'll see that sales ranking report number 5 on the list there. All you need to really do is download that information, and you're going to download it into an Excel spreadsheet. You know, if you do that, that by itself is going to give you a version of this report. It's not going to be as fancy as what we've done. And obviously, Jack does a lot of work behind the scenes there, processes that data, makes it much more user-friendly. But this will give you the basic layout. So, you know, take a look at it, run it for yourself, run it to an Excel spreadsheet, take a look and see what it looks like, and you'll have some idea. At least you'll have the information. It won't be as nicely formatted. If you want it in a format like what we've shown you on our wholesale report, that's an option for you. Get a hold of us, and we can take a look at that for you and maybe convert it into a report and then give you something that's really usable.
So what do we do, Jer, with Reynolds and Reynolds?
Well, Reynolds and Reynolds, Rick, is a little bit more complicated. What you need to do is you need to set up a report in 6910, or I guess nowadays you could use dynamic reporting, but basically the information is the same. And what we're looking at here is a screenshot of what information you really need to create that same type of report. It's a little bit more complicated, like I said, but it's just building a report in that report generator or 6910, and all the information is right there. So if you want to take a screenshot of this or whatever while it's up there on the screen, it gives you the column headings you needed and also the selection criteria. Obviously, that's what you get out of the Reynolds system to create a similar report. How about DealerTrack, Rick?
Well, DealerTrack's a little bit different, Jer, and unfortunately, DealerTrack doesn't present their information similar to PDA and CDK or the 6910 report generator in Reynolds. So we have to do a little bit of legwork and have to kind of pick and choose some of the stuff on DealerTrack. So here's what happens in DealerTrack. they've got a option for wholesale analysis, number 22 on your hit parade here. You pull that up, and of course you come into what they call the wholesale analysis. And it's scattered about, doesn't make much sense, but then you can go through and you can do a sequence selection, and you're going to select the last 12 months sales. So that's going to give us the equivalent of what we're getting out of a PDA or the Reynolds report. And once we've got the last 12 months sales, now we've got that laid out, and of course we can look at the volume with our highest volume customers down to our lowest volume customers. And that information now that we're looking at here is merely sales, and it gives you the current month, the 12-month, the last month, and last year. So you can kind of look at that, but that doesn't give us enough to do a report. So what we have to do is we go to one of the optional screens here, and we can look at sales and returns. So I can look month after month on sales for this particular customer, and then I can look at returns. So I'm getting close to having the information that I need, but I've got to go back and go to yet another screen to get my gross profits. And I can see my gross profit percentages as they go month to month, current year and last year, and then of course return percentages. And there's also invoice counts, which some people like to look at that, and they can do some calculations based on frequency of how often we're dealing with these people or what. But at any rate, the problem is I can't take this information and get it into my DCSI Wholesale report, so I have to make up my own, and I use a spreadsheet to do that, and we just enter the information in one by one. Now, if you look at this report from the sample that Jack builds for us, the top 10 or so are the ones that I really want to pay attention to get me started in this quest to find out where's my profit, is it there, what's happening to my obsolescence because of this business, etc. So with the dealer track, it's cumbersome to bring all this information onto a spreadsheet, and I usually just do the first 10 so that I've got something to look at. But what we end up with here is I've got some totals, I've got the sales, my returns, my return percentage, and I've got my gross profit percentage. So starting at the top and then coming down with the highest sales, next highest, etc. And it gives me the same kind of picture of substandard gross that I can go after, high returns that I can go after, and it gives me the same flexibility that I have here. It's just a little more steps to get that information into the system and figure out exactly where that's coming from and who do I address, who do I go after. And sometimes I have to make some hard choices that some of this business may or may not be the business for me. Sometimes I can sit down with one of my wholesale accounts. We can talk about ways that we can help them streamline their business, and none of those ways include a bigger discount. But somebody's always coming along giving more discount, and that's why we show this pro forma. That's why we show this whole education into the wholesale profitability, because a lot of guys don't pay attention to that. Unfortunately, their pay plans are part of the problem. Jer, what happens when you got a pay plan in place?
Well, Rick, and everybody wants to go after some wholesale business because a lot of the pay plans say that I'm going to pay you based upon gross profit. So if I generate some gross dollars, well, then I make more money. Unfortunately, there's a side effect. And if you're not watching your margins, you're obviously doing a lot of work for nothing, really, because in the end, it's the dealership that wants to make money and needs to make money in order to stay in business, in order to take care of our customers. So it's a wholesale, it's a competitive marketplace. You need to either decide whether or not you can make money at it. And if you can, by all means, it's a great business, if you can make money at it. But you got to monitor those gross profit percentages. You got to monitor returns. I've seen a lot of dealerships get in trouble with obsolescence because they're doing a lot of wholesale and they're getting a lot of returns back from body shops. So that's an important factor to consider. all of it, take a look at the operation. You got to analyze it as an operation and as a business unit within the business.
Great advice, Jer. And if anybody wants to have us run some numbers for them, put together some of these reports, drop us an email to dcsipartsguys@gmail.com, and or get a hold of your DCSI consultant and say, I need to run a wholesale report. We need to do some digging here and figure out if we're making any money or not. So, Jer, I appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for your time.
Hey, Rick, it was my pleasure. And, this is just what we like talking about. We're in the parts business, and that's what it's all about. And we're just trying to help everybody out there. So if you got something out of it, like you said, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we'll see you back here real soon because we'll have some more information for you.
Well, thanks again, Jer. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Let's go make some money.